Hi everyone. I am here with my friend Uri. Hi
What's up,
Uri.
guys? How's it
How's it
going?
going?
Pretty good, pretty good. It's been a nice week, busy week working, but things are things are kind of planning out a little bit, so that's
hmm
good.
That's awesome. Glad to hear that.
Yeah, thank you for
Um,
having me.
yeah, no, thanks for being here. Do you want to talk about your week first? I mean, that's interesting.
Um, I mean, it's kind of interesting. I mean, I'm living at this place on the Upper West Side, basically, and it's a little bit rough. Like, basically, my roommate has a dog, and
Mhm.
we moved in another person for Airbnb with a dog. And the idea was I was going to move in with my roommate and the dog to one room, and the other dog was going to be in the other room. But I actually haven't been getting any sleep for the last like 2 nights because
What?
I decided I'm not going to move in with the dog and my roommate to one room. Instead, I'm just going to sleep on the sofa. So I've been like taking melatonin and just trying to get to sleep at random hours of the night. And it's just like I really haven't been sleeping.
Well, if it makes you feel a little bit better, I kind of had a bit of a rough night last night also. Like I really have a huge challenge with my sleep, and most people who are close
Oh
to me know
gosh.
that. Yeah,
So I
suffer
think
suffer
you
from insomnia.
mentioned that. I think you mentioned that before. It's because you think a lot, or you're very analytical. Is that?
Yeah, it just all comes up at night.
Uh,
But I do take melatonin. Last night I took less than I normally take, and I slept for 3 hours. Woke up, slept for 2 hours, was up, and
wow.
then so I got like a total of like 6 or so hours. But I usually it's not very common that I get more than that without taking like some like a serious, you know, sleep.
How many milligrams of melatonin do you take? Because I took 3 hits of 1 milligram, and it took me like 3 hours to get to sleep. I don't think it
It
did any.
wears off.
It's
I think like 2.5.
2.5. I think I think that's what should be hitting, but it's just not. So I just kind of fight it, and I just end up staying up and try and like laying down and waking up and nothing. I don't know. I got to talk to a doctor about something stronger.
Yeah, I feel the same way. Like we're kind of in the same boat. But get to sleep tonight. Do
Right.
whatever you can.
Well, the solution to all that is like, so they leave and go out, and then I take the room in the morning hours, so I'm not woken up by the dog, and I just sleep through the morning hours. So that's the solution to that problem. It's not a great solution. It kind of puts me like fuzzy day, um, tiredness throughout the whole day, but that's the solution right now for another day or two.
All right.
So yeah.
Well, good luck with all that. Good luck with your sleep. I really do hope you get at least a little bit of sleep because it could make a difference.
Thank you. Thank you. You too.
I thank you. I know the feeling. So
I know. I'm happy somebody can relate to like what I'm
yeah.
going
No, no.
through.
Oh, dude, a lot of people can relate.
Yeah,
People,
it's
yeah, like I've been talking to more and more people, and people just it's a crazy time, so people are losing sleep, like with COVID.
right for sure. I mean, I actually find myself. It's weird. I was like actually finding myself in the middle of a business call at like 12:45. He wanted me to take care of certain things on his account, so I'm like calling him and texting him because I have to go over some information with him, and he's like, "This has to be urgent," and I was like, "Well, if you want it urgent, this has to be the time I work on it." I'm like, "Am I waking you? Am I waking your family? Like, what's up? Like, do you want to talk now? It's like 1 o'clock in the morning or something." So,
I thought you
uh,
meant 12:45 p.m.
oh no, I'm
Oh my
I'm
god.
talking like hours in the night. This is like,
What?
it's like it's like when I can't sleep, my day sometimes either starts or ends there.
Wait a second. So what do you do? What is your job? Like I know I have a whole questionnaire, but I'm this is interesting. So
Right. So I would describe my job as two things. My main job is one is damage control for e-commerce companies, and the second is quality control. So sometimes I describe it different ways depending on who I'm talking to. I mainly just make sure e-commerce companies are growing, like already established companies are increasing sales, their metrics are increasing sales on their platforms, their in-house operations are going smoothly. If there's any holes in their in-house operations, I go in there and I find the holes in their operations and fix them,
Hmm.
basically.
So what is your
So,
job title? Like, what's your elevator pitch?
um, that's kind of my elevator pitch. I don't know if it's a good one. It's a quality control manager for companies that sell on e-commerce platforms.
That's an
So,
elevator. That's a legitimate elevator pitch.
okay, yeah,
That's much more of an elevator pitch than that spiel. But
thank
okay,
you. Yeah,
okay.
I'm just,
I don't
I
know
tr
anything about e-commerce, but that's okay. If I was in an elevator with you for
yeah.
5 seconds or so, then I would.
Well, you know Amazon and you know eBay and you know Walmart. So if like I basically work with sellers who sell on these platforms
Mhm,
and that sell it that are like top sellers on these platforms. So if they have any issues with their business operations,
mhm.
I'm the guy they call and I fix
Cool.
it.
Wow. What'd you study in college?
I studied film. I have a
Oh,
degree in film production.
no way.
Yeah.
That's so interesting. I didn't even know that.
Yeah, I guess there's a lot. I feel like nothing with me is like a short story, and it's all these journey stories, but they all, I don't know what I'm saying,
Did you
but
make a film? Do you have a film that you produced and like directed?
I mean, I have tons of work that I've produced and directed. Before I did all this stuff,
Mhm.
I
I'm
think,
having like an epiphany. Like you sent me that film, and I'm like, wait a second. So Uri sent me a video on WhatsApp, and it was like a cooking
yeah,
video, and I didn't understand why you weren't in the video. I'm like, who is this random person? But now I'm figuring. Now, okay, fine. It
yeah,
all
that
makes
was
sense
a
now.
video. I was behind the camera, so I was in the
Yeah, no,
video.
I figured that, but I wasn't sure if you were like chopping bits. That like what I. Yeah,
Yeah.
okay. That's so awesome. That's
Yeah, I
cool.
guess I didn't explain myself. You showed me your cooking video and I was like, wow, that's awesome. I love cooking videos. And then I was like, here's a cooking video. And maybe I didn't say that I filmed it or edited, but I just
Well, your
sent
name
it
was there. Your
to
name was
you.
on there, but I wasn't sure what exactly the connection was. Like, I wasn't sure if you just cut random bits and pasted it together with like a program, an editing program, which
Well,
I'm sure you
yeah,
did.
it's
But
an editing
I
program.
wasn't sure how much of it, how much of your baby that actually was.
Yeah, yeah, it was all of it. I directed it and I told it's
Yeah,
set
you
for
didn't. Yeah, how much you didn't explain.
yeah.
That's so cool. Wow.
So funnily enough, like I made all kinds of videos and I produced all kinds of like productions. I even worked for a marketing firm in Chicago for a little while as a head video producer. But before all that, when I first moved to New York City, which was about 10 years, where am I at now? It's like 10, 12 years ago, I guess. It's about 12 years ago now. Things are just kind of, time just flies by when you're having
So you
fun.
moved to New York City 10 years ago, 12 years ago.
Um, about 12 years, I think around 2008, 2009.
Wow. Okay, that's
Yeah,
that's more than 12. That's more. That's
yeah, that's, man.
Yeah,
I,
wait. I'm losing
that's
track of
like,
time. You know those people, by the way, who are like really good with years, like, oh yeah, that happened in 2014 and like 20, or even the
yeah,
older people who are like, yeah, in back in 86. I'm like, who even knows, like, who can think that far back? Like, I
right,
mean,
right. No, I'm not good with years either. Like, I would say, like, I was in, like 3 years ago, I left New York City, and not really 3 years. It's like more like 4 or 5 years ago. Uh,
uh-huh.
like, I'm not one of those people that are good with years. I kind of just bundle them together and be like, I've been doing it for 4 years, and it's been like maybe my 4 year estimation could have actually been either 3 years or 5 years, you know?
Mhm.
So,
Right.
um,
I mean, I feel like people don't even care that much unless it actually matters.
right.
It's not really that significant. Like time kind of just, it's all a blur anyway.
Yeah, it really is. So to go back to the cooking videos that I sent you because I saw your video, I actually, my first jobs in New York City were working at the Food Network. So I actually filmed,
Mm,
I was the cameraman on the Food Network when I first got to New York City.
no way. That's
Yeah.
so cool.
And then I worked on Top Chef, which isn't the Food Network. It's another net. It's like Magic Hat Network or something. I don't know. It was like an independent production network. But basically, I was in with all the food programs when I first got here.
Hmm. Oh, that's why you got excited when I showed my cooking thing.
Yeah, yeah. I
Because
was.
I did that for a class. I don't know if you read the description. I took a class like
Uh,
3 years ago. Though it was for my special ed degree, and
that's
we
so
had
cool.
to, yeah, yeah. It was a really fun. I think that was the best class I took in that program.
That's amazing. Yeah, I can't. That's interesting. They're making you do a video like that.
Well,
Um,
to get certified as a teacher, you have to film yourself teaching and write about it, and it's called
okay.
MBA, and I thank God I passed it. I know this is about you, but that was like a big achievement that I passed it over quarantine. So
No, no, it's
yeah.
okay. Also, I mean, I think being a teacher is like we're talking about all this creative stuff. I think being a teacher is super creative. People who are teachers, they're they're almost like superhuman because they're always doing work. Like their work doesn't stop. Like they go to work, they're dealing with like 100 kids, and then they come home and they're still dealing with those 100 kids because their work is they're still like grading papers so they go to sleep. My mom's a teacher, and then you have to like do all this creative stuff as well, like put together these videos and projects for the classes. So it's really the ultimate creative job, I think.
Aw,
Probably.
thanks, Uri. I think film is the ultimate creative job, to be honest. I really
I
do. I
mean,
think, by the way, one of my favorite quotes of all time is from Martin Scorsese, which is the most personal is the most creative. Yeah.
okay,
So,
the most person. That's the quote. The most personal, the most creative.
is the most creative, yeah.
The most personal is the most creative.
Yeah. I don't know if you saw the
I
Oscars
love
last
that.
year.
I didn't. What was going on in the Oscars last year?
Basically, the film Parasite won.
I didn't see
And
that.
yeah,
Was
I didn't
that?
see it either. I didn't,
that
but I saw it win Best Picture, and it's from I think Korea, and the director he like credited Martin Scorsese, and I was like, wow, that's amazing. Like people, in other countries are looking to how much of an impact the American film industry has had on the world, and like creativity around the world. I just thought it was
Yeah.
awesome. It's like, yeah, so kudos to you guys, like film people. I think it's really, really cool. I wish I
Thank
could be
you.
more part of the film world and like
You can. You can easily be a part of the film world. I mean,
I think
nowadays
about
it's
it a lot. I
a
do.
matter of fact, you are a part of the film world. This is part of the film world.
I agree. I do agree. Yeah,
Just
I know, and I'm all for the low budget stuff. All for it. Like Billie Eilish,
but
she became a superstar using this equipment.
wow, I didn't
You know
know
that?
that.
Like seriously,
But
she was as low budget as it comes, and she became a total phenomenon. And she's a kid. She's like 16.
yeah,
So
well,
I
I think
love it.
she's like
What?
18 or 19 now. But yeah, she's very
Oh
young.
well, yeah.
Yeah.
No, I really am all for it. Like, don't be shy. Like, if you have an idea or like you want to do something, do it. Like, now anyone can get their hands on basic technology. You don't need any
Yeah.
start with anything fancy, and you could just learn a few editing tricks on YouTube. And
I know.
yeah, I'm totally with you on that. Like,
I mean, it's kind of scary because it's always kind of been like that. And it's like it's true. You can do like very simple things and make them look very creative. And it sucks for me, from my perspective, is that like I like know how to use like all the crazy equipment and stuff like that. And still sometimes like 16-year-old girl like video comes out and like I'm just like I can't do that. That's
oh,
like it looks so much better, and it's just like it just makes me feel bad because I take time to like learn all the equipment and everything, and then like the techniques, and it's just
well,
like
don't feel bad. Don't feel. Listen, don't
okay.
feel bad. I think it's actually very like good to have knowledge. Like it goes the same with like musicians. Like there are musicians who don't know how to read a single note on a single sheet of paper, but they
Hmm.
are rock stars, like legitimate rock stars. Hold
Right.
on. Sorry. Had to take a little break. Um, as I was saying, so there are certain musicians who are total rock stars without knowing any sheet music. And then you got these like genius, brilliant, mastermind, musicians, and they're well versed in theory and all that. Um, but I guess the rock stars are more successful because they're
Mhm.
out there selling the albums and all that. Where the ones who might know more music aren't as successful. But I think that success is um, you know that's not the measure of success. Like
Right.
just because Billie Eilish is out there selling records using a laptop, like it doesn't mean that you're. But it doesn't mean, you know what I mean.
It's
It doesn't mean that you're not successful. You know what I mean?
it reminds me of like Dead Mouse,
Okay.
like because he is a DJ. I'm not even sure if that's how you pronounce his name, but he's a DJ that became successful maybe like 10 years ago, also, or maybe 20 years ago at this point, also just using a laptop in his
Hmm.
in his house. He never was supposed to be like a successful musician. He
Uh
just
huh.
he just mixed stuff privately. So, but yeah, I know what you're saying. It's I think it's just people who have the drive are the ones that become successful. It's not the ones that know all the notes and everything. Um, I was thinking my favorite band growing up, Motley Crue was my favorite band growing up.
Mm.
So you're familiar with any Motley Crue songs?
I'm sure I am. I just can't think of any right now.
Okay, like girls, girls, girls.
Hmm.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
Okay,
no, I
so
do know that one.
like there's a few famous ones that everybody knows, but um, one of the dynamics of the band were pretty much Nikki Sixx is the bassist, and he wrote all the songs, or he wrote most of the songs for the band. But he was like the worst player. He's like the worst bassist ever. He's not the worst bassist ever, but he's not a renowned bassist. Basically, he knows a few notes, and then he gives the song with the notes and the lyrics to Mick Mars, who's like really composed and understands musical theory, and then does all the solos and writes the complex music to it.
Hmm.
So that I was just
Wow.
thinking about that.
Wow.
So, but without Nikki Sixx, the band wouldn't be successful.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Interesting. I didn't know all that. I don't know that much about like bands and stuff, but I know their music.
Cool. Cool. All right. Well, yeah. Anyway,
Yeah.
that's a good thought.
Anyway, so should we go to the first question?
Yeah. I guess
It was lovely
let's.
chatting.
No, I've been enjoying chatting, but let's kick off the first question. Yeah.
Okay. So how has life been since COVID hit?
Okay. So life has been pretty intense since COVID hit. I don't know how much in depth I'd like to go into this, but since the beginning of COVID, pretty much my father passed away in April.
Yeah, I'm sorry to hear
So
that. I really, yeah, like Baruch Animet.
thank you. I appreciate that. That kind of was the worst thing about COVID that happened during this period for me. He didn't pass away because of COVID. He passed away because of cancer, but it did have a very big turn and effect. And I guess with the COVID stuff going on at the same time, it definitely hit me pretty hard.
Mm.
So it hit me pretty hard and emotional. And I think for like a month or two after that, or even around that whole period, I was pretty depressed. And um, life didn't really change that much for me because I've been working remotely for the last like couple years anyway. But it did put me in a different state of mind because I was like even mad because they wouldn't let me into the hospital, or we couldn't even get appointments for my dad to like to do biopsies and stuff during that time frame. It was like there was no attention being paid to him during those time frame when he wasn't doing very good, and we couldn't even do anything about it because of the COVID.
Wow.
So I was really just more mad at the situation.
Was he in the
Um,
hospital?
so it happened pretty fast. He was in the hospital. He went to the hospital a few times, and they were going to do, like, they did basically a biopsy, and they thought that he was clear of a cancer that he had like 10 years ago that might have come back. And then they were going to do a second biopsy, but they couldn't do it for like 2 or 3 weeks because COVID was happening. So by the time they did the second biopsy, they thought he was like kind of clear.
Hmm.
Um, the results didn't come back for that biopsy um, until it was like just too late.
Oh, wow.
He,
Well, how
yeah,
long can I ask, just how long does it take?
I mean, I'm not a doctor. I really know the bare minimum of like what goes on with this stuff. So basically, like, he had a biopsy, and they were checking out his insides, like his kidneys and his bladder and stuff like that. They thought it was clear, and then they were they were going to do another biopsy to make sure it was clear. And if it wasn't clear, they were going to go into chemo, which I'm not even sure if my father would have wanted to do in the first place, because he probably wouldn't have wanted to suffer that much anyway. But after the second biopsy, it was already like 80% terminal spread to his liver,
Oh, no.
um, which we found out like we found out about a week later, because they were waiting for the results back, um, and then it was terminal within, like, it was just like a few days.
Oh, wow.
So yeah,
Wow. I'm really
yeah.
sorry.
So yeah, it really it was pretty sad. I'm pretty beat up about it this whole year. That's mainly been the biggest thing effect on me this whole year. And I know you have some questions, like, furthermore about like Yiddishkeit and stuff like that. So that, I mean, I can get to that further, but I'm definitely going to shul more often now to say Kaddish for my father.
Wow.
Uh,
So did you become more religious since he passed away?
I think it's definitely something that's yeah, that spiked an increase in my religiosity. I've had like a long Jewish journey in my Yiddishkeit, but uh, this whole my father passing away, just like when anybody passes away, maybe I'm not sure how other people react to everybody passing away, but it like turns on triggers in your head. You start thinking about life in different ways. You start thinking, where your values are, and that's what happened with me as well. Like, I think about words of wisdom my dad's given me over the years, and I think about what my values are, and I'm I know it's still a process, but I think about the best ways to apply them and to live my greatest life, um, and based on thinking about, you know, my dad just like yelling me to like get this in my head, like, this is the way you have to do things. Not that he has the best way of doing things, but he did have certain ways that were very good of doing things that um, that would help inspire me get closer to my goals. Um, he was very much a thinker. He wasn't very much, as far as putting things into practicality. It was very hard for him, but he had very big, smart ideas. So usually it was like somebody utilizing his ideas to put into action. And I'm a little bit the opposite. I'm more of like an action person. I'm not saying I don't have big ideas, but he's kind of inspired me to like just put more of myself out there. in different ways. So yeah, that's,
Wow, that's beautiful. I'm getting goosebumps.
yeah, thank you. Me too. I mean, I'm, I'm, I would be like, I've definitely talked about this, and I've talked to a therapist and stuff a lot. So that's the only reason I'm not like on the verge of like crying right now. Maybe I am, but it's just,
It's
it's sad.
okay if you are.
It's it's been a hard year. Like I could be like, I have times when I like break down and I just like, I'm like walking somewhere and I'm thinking about my dad, and then it just comes up. It comes up very emotional. So
Wow. Thanks for sharing that with me.
yeah, yeah, I'm happy to share it, and I think it's also a year just reflective on myself and everybody else that there's a lot of intensities going on, and I think it's important that people kind of can reframe their mind a little bit to focus on things that are a little bit more valuable. Um, because even though it's been a hard year for everybody, the hardships have kind of brought out the beauty as well in certain areas, I think. I know it's hard to say because it's been a very rough year. So
Yeah. Oh my God, you're getting me all emotional. I don't want to cry on an interview.
it's okay. You can also let it out.
I
It's fine.
can,
It's
I
your
know. If
interview.
I really need to, I will.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know it has been a rough year. It has been. And I
Mhm.
do agree with you that we have to, be kinder and more self-aware and get
Yeah.
help if we need it and ask for help.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I don't think there's any shame in asking for help. I know I'm not really one to easily ask for help, but it's it's been a rough year. If people need help, they need help. I mean, I understand it.
Hmm.
It's easily like people have lost their jobs, people
Have
uh,
lost their minds.
lost their minds. They mostly lost their minds more so than their jobs.
Some lost both, so I don't want to be in
So
that boat.
yeah, yeah, and then obviously the people, we've lost a lot of people too. Um, and my prayers go out to those people who are sick and also the people that we've lost during this time. Um,
I mean,
yeah, so but listen, this it's time, it's really time to refresh. It really is. Like we can it's there's something good about being able to just categorize it as a year of like 2020 was a year like all the shit happened, right? So like let's categorize it as a year, and we're pretty much done with this year. So let's focus on like very good and positive things and just move forward into the next year, you know?
hmm yeah. Well, good luck with that. And, I hope that next year is better than this year.
Thank you.
Yeah. Do you
So
want to
yeah,
add anything else about that? Or should we move on to the next question?
um, I mean, I could talk forever. I was just thinking of like this, um, you know, the song by Counting Crows.
Which one?
There's a song, it's, or you know, the Counting Crows. It's
Sure, yeah. I know Colorblind and I know Mr. Jones.
one of my favorite songs by the Counting Crows is Long December, and it's
Oh, I don't
just,
know that one.
oh, you gotta. It's such a good song and such a good video, and it's just, it
Hmm.
goes like, it's a long December, and there's reason to believe maybe this year will be better than the last.
Aw.
That's the
Wow.
song. So
Wow.
I think it's just like I get to December almost every year, then I like think of the Counting Crows and think
Hmm.
of that song, and I was like, it's such a beautiful song. You should definitely check it out,
Hmm.
and it's like a good setup to the next year. So
Yeah. Yeah.
anyway,
Well, I wish you comfort among the mourners of Zion and a better year and good luck with your job and all that and all the best.
amen. Thank you. You too. Things should
Thanks.
everything should be everything is good. We just have to
Yeah, not
see
define
it.
good.
We have to. It's hard
It's
for
good
us to
and
see.
bad. Like, I mean, there has been a lot of good for me this year. It's just, you know, I think about, you know, I think about I hate to think about the reality because it hurts.
Yeah.
The reality hurts. So I do my best to I don't not mask it, but to focus on the positive. But it's not all positive.
Sure.
Like, a lot of things are really, really
But
shitty.
when I say it's positive, I mean, I guess from a God perspective, things happen for the reason they're supposed to happen. I'm not saying they're positive, really, but
Hmm.
like ultimately, they should be. Ideally, they should be bringing good or bringing
Hmm.
better, even though they're not always good. But anyway, um, what are some of the things that maybe turn it around on you?
Ah!
So things that you're
Oh, you're interviewing me.
struggling this year since Corona happened, or this year in general.
For me,
Yeah.
um,
Welcome, Lilly, to my podcast. I just want no, it's just,
your podcast.
right. I've just hijacked the podcast and now you're answering the questions.
All right, answer away. Um, well, I'm back home with the parents, and
Okay.
that's a challenge. It's challenging.
I wouldn't say that's the worst thing in the world, but maybe you could tell
No,
me.
it's not. It's not.
Like,
It's not the worst thing in the world, but it's not easy.
I hear
Um,
that.
yeah. Uh, I don't want to bash my parents because I love them. But I'm constantly. It's a constant challenge of patience,
Hmm.
consistent, because I think this COVID has like taught me, like, honor, kibud avaim, honor thy
Hmm.
father and thy mother. So I really think that might be where I need to, like, focus, my life, because I'm not overtly disrespectful, but I 100%, like, I feel like I fail sometimes in that mitzvah.
I hear that.
Yeah, now I'm gonna get
Oh,
emotional.
man. No, I mean, I guess like to turn it back on me, like I never lived with my father before the beginning of this year. In
Hmm.
the beginning of the year, I was living with my father, taking care of him
Mm.
for the months that he was sick. And
Wow.
um, kavod avim is definitely something, even up until his passing, we needed to work on. I needed to work on,
Yeah.
and I still need to work on after his passing. Um,
But how do you work on? Can I ask? Can I go there? Like, how do you work on it after he, you know, passed?
whew, it's a rough question. I feel well. It's a rough. Now I feel like it's turning back on me. Like, no, it's
Yeah,
rough.
gotcha.
Good one. Like, um, it's. I think a good way to work on it is to go to shul and say Kaddish for my father, and recognize that recognize that even though we didn't get along all the time, there's still like I still love him, and he's still like I can still have a relationship with him after he's not here physically present in this world. I know it's very hard to like say that because like it's like weird to have somebody missing in your life, you know?
Mhm.
So, but they're not really missing. It's like they've been with you the whole time and they're still kind of with you. They're not physically present, you know?
Mhm.
Um, but it's like I try, like I said, I think I try to take the things that my father has taught me and try to like apply them better myself. So that's a way to like respect him.
Wow,
Um, yeah,
that's awesome.
yeah.
I mean, I keep that in mind too. Because my dad also, like, I have to credit him a lot with his way of doing things. Like,
Mm.
he's anal, but
Yeah, I know.
I think
I
for
know.
me, for me, he's anal because I'm
Mhm.
a millennial. But for him, that's how you do things. But he's right.
Right.
Like, you know what I mean? Like there is an objective standard for how, not, and I'm not saying everything, but there is, you know, I don't know what's an example. Like I think the best example for me is music.
Hmm.
Like I pretty much picked up guitar and and just learned the chords, but I don't know shit about the guitar. And when I would practice piano, like sometimes I would mess around. He's like, you know, you're not reading the sheet music. And I'm
Right.
like, well, you know, can I just play and make it whatever? Like, can it just? He's like, no, it's not a real song. Like he would literally say that. And a lot of musicians are like, yeah, you know, that's not the way to think, blah blah blah. But in a way, it's like, wait a second, he's pushing me to learn how to read music. That's a gift. That's a serious gift. And that's the way I see it. I mean, sure, he's hard on me and he kicks my ass, but I don't know. I think that's one example of many.
I think that's actually pretty beautiful, like that illustration, because I think just knowing my father and my mother, it's like parents really have like a different perspective and they're much older than us. And they just have like the perspective of how things should be done just because they've kind of like lived longer to us. So not everything they say is like super valuable because they don't understand the new generation either.
Yeah.
But
Hmm.
but some things they say are valuable. Like if you're gonna be a professional musician or if you really want to like do something right, like yeah, learning the notes is part of doing it right, you know, instead of just like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like they have that word of advice that like, you know, maybe like 20 other things they say don't make sense, but then there's like one thing that actually that does make sense. That is the valuable piece. So you have to like sift it out and then find that valuable piece, like the yeah, learn what notes are on the scales, see what's will help you be a better
I
musician.
appreciate it because it's like, you know, I work in a Montessori school, and there it's an approach to learning, and you know, it's very similar because
Mhm.
let's say they have a certain task that they're doing. So
Yeah.
there is a certain way to do it, to doing that task, and to to how it has a beginning, middle, and an end. And you have to do everything and then go on to the next task. So it might not be as free flowing. Um, and contrary to popular belief, it doesn't turn kids into robots. Like it's very holistic. But anyway, I relate the whole, like, you know, wisdom of the old generation to Montessori, which is a very non-traditional approach, but there are a lot of traditional things about it.
Mhm. Yeah, I don't know so much about the Montessori approach. I mean, I've heard a little bit. Is that, do you think that's better than the regular approach, or
Yeah,
is this a,
traditionally, yeah. Well, for children, for young children, yes, I do. I do think that it's important to invest in early childhood. Like that, those are the most important years of the child's life. And I
uh,
see that more and more, like every time I'm there. Like, sure, you could save, I don't know, you could start a college fund for your kid to go to Yale, sure. But honestly, if he goes to Yale and if he goes to Brooklyn College, he's gonna learn the same things. But
I
if he
don't know,
goes to,
Brooklyn College is pretty high credentialed college. I wouldn't shut that down.
right, that's
I
true.
don't,
It's, yeah, it's funny because like I went to Brooklyn College, and because it was a commuter school, I didn't feel that it was that big of a deal because my peers went to Ivy Leagues, you know, and I felt like, oh, I'm only going to Brooklyn College, but yeah, I have to change that in my mind. But you know, like you know what I mean, right? Like
yeah.
any degree from anywhere is you're pretty much you're learning the same things. But if you send your kid to a Montessori, you know, versus you know a just daycare where it's babysitting, like I'm sorry, like they're better off. They're gonna
Mhm.
learn like skills, like lifelong skills that will build their souls from a young age. I don't think you can't put a price tag on that.
I feel like they get to think for themselves a little bit more
Oh
because
yeah,
they're
oh yeah,
usually,
I see it all the time. Like I think it's amazing. I'm really like I don't even know that much about it. Like I'm not certified. I'm not a certified Montessori teacher. I just
Hmm.
know because I look online and I work there. So
Yeah. Do you work at Lamplighters or what
no, I'm gonna
Montessori?
I'm gonna well I guess I
Oh,
could say
yeah.
it.
I guess you
I don't know
shouldn't
if I'll
say
say
it.
the
I
name.
don't know.
It's not a Jewish school.
Never mind. Never mind. Don't say it.
Yeah, no, it's not a Jewish school. But anyway,
Okay.
yeah, I'm not
Gotcha.
ashamed, but I can tell you after.
Okay, no problem. Yeah, I should have even mentioned that.
No, it's okay.
I know people who've worked at Lamplighters in the past and that
Hmm.
write the programs, and I think they do. I mean, I don't know specifically, but I think they do a great job. The people that I've
Hmm.
talked to that work there, and they're just like they really help the students try to get out of themselves, and yeah.
Yeah, I've heard amazing things about Lamplighters. And
Mhm.
I really like that it's a Chabad Montessori. And one of my favorite things about Montessori is that both the Rebbe and Maria Montessori have like an eerily similar quote about children. And basically, Maria Montessori said something along the lines of like, if hope and salvation like would come, I can't say it without crying. Oh my God, it's like it's gonna be um, Jack. It's gonna be because of the children, because children are the bigger. Oh my God. Damn you! It's because of the children are the makers of men, and and the Rebbe said it's because of the Kinderlach, like the week Mashiach comes. Sorry. Oh my God! Can I cut this out?
It's
I might cut
okay.
this out. Sorry, it's just too
Okay.
it's too raw.
You can cut it. I mean, if you want to recompose yourself and then do it, then
No, I'm fine.
I don't
I'm
know.
fine. I'm
Yeah,
fine.
no, I hear that.
I don't
I
know.
hear
We'll
that.
see.
Yeah,
Anyway, um,
it's cool. We can recompose and then like restart, or I guess you can cut it out. You know, but
anyway, no, I
it's.
didn't cut it. I didn't cut anything out yet, but I might.
I was just reading this book, kind of along the lines of that. I mean, it's not about kids or like little kids per se, but it's about college students. It's called The Coddling of the American Mind.
Oh, I heard of it.
Oh, you heard of it? Okay, cool, cool. It's it's I'm reading it. It's very interesting because it talks about basically why like this idea of like fragility that everybody's talking about, kind of, in like how the reason it was written basically was that students were going to professors and saying they were getting offended by ideas. So so it's basically like the claim is basically like any idea that I'm offended by, I want you to cut out of the course. And this is basically what's happening to a very extreme version of some of these colleges like Berkeley, like very colleges with very extreme uniform ideas, and it's hurting the members of society because they can't face the world how
Hmm.
they're supposed to. The world is like cruel, the world is heavy. It's You're going up against tough ideas and you're going up against tough people. So in reality, you need to be able to learn that stuff in college, and you can't be. And instead, the students are demanding that these schools censor these ideas, and because they're getting offended.
Hmm.
Um,
I've definitely 100% heard about this, and I think
yeah,
it's ludicrous. I'm
it's.
sorry to anyone who this is offending, but it is ludicrous.
I think it's
You
also
shouldn't be getting
ludicrous.
offended by ideas. You should be getting offended if someone is like, calling you an asshole, or like if someone is attacking your character, but not if someone has an idea.
Right. I don't think people should be offended by ideas. I mean, the only time I think people should be not, I mean, they shouldn't be offended by ideas, but like only if it leads to violent action should that be should that be a problematic.
Mhm.
I mean,
I agree.
the idea, like, yeah, I don't want you to tell me what, I'm not telling you what you to think, and I'm not I don't want people telling me what I should be thinking either.
Hmm.
So yeah, but that's kind of it's a very new thing, and that's a 2020 thing. It's like it's like a PC thing that people are talking about nowadays. But I guess the bottom line, when I mentioned that book, the point of it was that these kids that are going to college are now learning these kind of toxic ideas,
Hmm.
and those are translating to now the real world. And maybe
Hmm.
we're just in the older generation
No,
and
no, we are.
like that.
We
No,
are. Like it's very interesting. Like we are we're old. Like
we're like
we're old. Like we became old. Like there's no other way to say it.
we're
I
like in the
mean,
generation going out the door. We're the
no,
millennials.
we're not going out the door, but we're definitely like times have
Right,
changed, and
right,
we are older. Like we are different than kids in their 20s, teens. Like they've learned different things and they do things differently.
yeah, for
They grew
sure.
up, you know, they grew up differently than we did.
It's true. And I guess then the world is changing. They're changing it. We're changing it.
Yeah.
Everybody. But cool. Anyway,
Yeah.
maybe
So
we should
getting
get.
back to how old and, crotchety we are.
Yeah. Wait. Back when I was a young whippersnapper.
I know.
Like,
Yeah. Back then in the
right.
we're not that old. We're not like
Right.
dinosaurs.
Right. That's true. That's. Anyway,
We're only dodo birds. They were extinct sooner than the dinosaurs.
that's true.
Um, so what was your high school experience like?
High school experience. Okay. So back in high school, I was a metalhead. So like there,
Really?
yeah.
You
So I
don't come
had
off as a metalhead.
no. Well, in my mind, I still see myself as a metalhead. Like in my mind, I have long hair, a ripped leather jacket, and patches, and like ripped jeans.
Uh-huh.
So I know I don't look like that, but that's how I am in my
Did you
head.
have long hair?
So maybe not completely in my mind anywhere, but yeah, back when I was in high school, I had long hair. I uh, I had two crowds I hung out with. I hung out, well, I hung out with like the cool kids at a different school, right? That was like completely independent from my school. And then at my school, I hung out with the goth kids.
Mm. Did you go to public school?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. And where are
Um,
you from?
Charlotte, North Carolina.
Hmm.
So at my school, I was the only Jewish person at my school.
Jewish metalhead at a public school.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So I was metal, but I hung out with the goth kids because there was only like one or two metal kids.
Yeah, all this all
Like,
this categorization is very confusing to me. So
oh.
is
Wait,
goth is
did you go
different.
to, you went to a private Jewish school?
I did.
Okay, so I guess there's
I went to
not
Solomon
these.
Schechter.
Okay, I don't even know what that is really. So I'm guessing there's not groups of like, there's not
I
like
mean, there were groups.
the jocks and the.
No, 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 not.
Oh.
It wasn't. So the high school had my class had like 46 kids in it,
Okay.
and it was conservative. So like it was egalitarian. Like all the girls were encouraged to wear tefillin, and we were allowed to wear pants and all that.
Hmm.
Um, there were definitely kids who got into like music and stuff, and a lot of them got into smoking and drinking. Um, and yeah, there was definitely a lot of very smart,
Hmm.
successful, like Ivy League type kids.
Gotcha. I don't think I never really drank in high school. I hope my mom's not watching, but I maybe smoked a little in high school.
Ooh,
So,
I'm telling.
yeah. I mean, I definitely smoked in high school, but I don't think I
Did
drank a
you
lot.
smoke with the goth kids or with the metal kids?
Both the goth and the metal kids. We smoked.
Mm.
So,
Wow. What did your mom think of you hanging out with these friends?
um, I don't know. I think, it's kind of hard to tell. Like the metal kids and my friends I hung out with, they were, I guess the metal kids were more like the preppy, rich Jewish kids who live in the city
The
who just,
metal kids were
they were
were preppy, rich, and Jewish.
kind of, yeah,
Oh my
we
god.
just instead of like, we just shopped at Hot Topic and Spencer's and stuff, and that's where we got our clothes. So I mean, it cost a lot of money to be metal kids. Like you have to afford the cool, like, Marilyn Manson T-shirt, which costs like $30, and the chain, yeah, the chain with the leather wallet that you walk
Yeah,
around.
I've seen that.
Yeah, and then you have to wear like these bracelets and stuff. That's like
Wait,
it's
so let's say you don't do that, but you hang out with those kids. Like, what happens?
um well, I mean, I don't think I did that so much. Like, I wasn't into all the chains. It was more like the basics. Like, I had a jacket that was a jean jacket with like leather ripped off leather, ripped off arms, and maybe like band patches on the back. And I had long hair, and I had at one point I had like a goatee that went like that, and it was like red. So I had like long hair with a red goatee, I think.
Wow.
Um, and I mean, pretty much everybody accepts you for who you are. You just feel like you're in a
What
category.
if you? Can I ask a question from
Mhm.
an old, wise 32-year-old perspective? What
Okay.
if you do all? Okay, let's say someone does all that with the beard, the goatee, and the shirt, and the patches, and all that, and he joins this group, and he looks like he's a great metalhead addition, and then he
Okay.
turns on the radio, and he starts, and he realizes instead of metal, he actually really likes Taylor Swift. Like he really does. Like this, he can't control it. Like I know Taylor
Well,
Swift wasn't back then, but you know what I mean. Like
it's
he really
kind of
likes Britney
funny.
Spears.
Well, it's kind of funny you mentioned that. Okay, so like, so basically, I had a metal band, and that's why I dressed metal also. So like, we had a band, we played shows in high school. Um, but it's funny you mentioned Taylor Swift because I was talking to one of my friends who was in my metal band, like 10 years ago or like 15 years ago when I was in high school, and who I'm still friends with today. And he's like, yeah, I just love, like, he like only listens to like Metallica and Megadeth and Slayer and all these heavy stuff. But he's like, yeah, I guess my my, what do they call it? I guess he's like, but I love Taylor Swift songs. They just have a good catchy tune, and they're like they're like your secret stash of music you listen to, but you don't tell anybody.
hmm
So, but I find like that, metalheads look very intense, but they're very emotional, and they have they have like a very soft spot. They're not as tough as they look, maybe. They're just they're like, they're melodic and they're poetic, and they just put on a hard shell, kind of like all the groups, really. Like any group that you see also does that. I don't know, but there's some maybe like really hardcore punk people that are really tough, but that's about it.
Mm.
So
Wow, that's interesting.
yeah, that's um yeah, I mean, our school was like divided. Our school, it wasn't divided. Like, I guess people hung out, everybody kind of hung out a little bit with everybody else. I went to school in the country of North Carolina. So there were the groups. There were like metalheads, there were jocks, there were the cheerleaders, there were um, the country redneck kids. Going to school, like I also played on the football team, so I was like a metalhead. I played on the football team one year, so I yes, like I identified and hung out with the metalhead and goth kids, but like I also kind of in high school, I also hung out with the football players and the preppy kids, and I dated a cheerleader at one point, and but my whole but I looked metal. I didn't like fit in the box with these groups. Oh, and then at some point I hung out with like the punk kids too. But I was
You know
really
what's really mind blowing to me is that I have a very strong, I think like all this punk, metal, goth stuff is really cool. And
yeah,
I always thought it was like since I was in eighth grade, I was like, wow, goth people. I think they're amazing.
yeah. I've always
Still,
thought that
I
too.
still it still blows my mind like the categories like of this counterculture stuff like
Hmm.
and if they are it's like Hasidut. There are
Yeah,
categories like there's
yeah.
definitely a difference between punk, goth, and metal. The same way there's a difference between like Chabad and Satmar and like Bubba, you know?
Well, yeah, it's funny you say that because like when there was the time period when I was hanging out with the punk kids, I was accepted as like hanging out with the punk kids at my school, but they knew I wasn't a punk kid.
Mm.
I was a metalhead hanging out with the punk kids. I wasn't like fully. I played music and they played in their bands. We had different tastes in music, and we just hung out together.
So where who like which group did you belong to in high school? Did you
Uh,
belong to a group at all?
so I did. I was kind of like a. I mean, I guess like I'm still kind of an independent soul, but like at my school, I hung out with the goth kids mostly.
So you were a goth.
Um,
Would you label yourself as a goth back then?
I would still label myself as like a liaison person because
Mhm.
I was like the goth kid that was like cool to go talk to the preppy kids also. Like I'm always been like kind of an intermediary person. Like I can be friends with like I was friends with like the jocks also, and then like also the friends with the goth kids, which weren't like they were very segregated and diverse at the schools that I went to. So it's like most people are just like stick to their crowds. I was always a free flowing transitional crowd person, which I still am now. So it's kind of, but really the people I hung out with were when I left my school, I hung out with my like, metalhead Jewish friends, and they had like a little bit more money. They lived in the city. Um, they were we were all into metal. There was like four or five of us. I'm still friends with them today. We still hang out. Now, we used to drive around in my friend John's pickup truck and blast metal music and go place. We were like a little band gang, um, really close group of friends. We uh, we had like a few guys, like four or five of us would be like in the solid group, and then we transition out people, I guess, based like some people would come in more. What am I trying to say? um that's how life was back then. But and then we just rode around listening to heavy metal. We listened to a lot of Motley Crue, Megadeth, Guns N' Roses, Kiss. We identified like this. We had attitudes, and we were like loud and obnoxious, and yeah, we just loved music. So
Wow, that's
uh,
awesome.
I feel like music is a big identity. I mean, it's also a big identity when you're older, not so much as you get older, but in high school, it was a big identity. What music you listened to, it was like the crowd you hung out with. So,
Hmm. Yeah, I think I felt that in high school too. Even though I didn't go to like a big public high school, like first of all, it never occurred to me to only listen to Jewish music,
mm,
like ever. Like everyone listened to pretty much everything, uh, and Yeah, like there actually was someone who was in a band, and he was like this not wallflower, but what do you call like a like someone not like a male who's emo.
Oh, emo.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he was emo.
They were pretty much like a subcategory of the punk kids. They're a
Right.
yeah, they're punk kids, but they're like different, a subcategory basically.
hmm So this kid was really emo, and he played bass really well. And I was like 15 when I met him, and I just thought I really thought he was like on the level of a god. I thought he was the
Wow.
coolest kid ever. Like I just was like mind blown. I like and I heard him play guitar in the music room. Oh no, I think it was guitar, and he was like killing it. And he was like this emo kid who just seemed to just have all this emotion. And I think that was that. Ever since then, I've been a groupie. Like,
Wow.
yeah, I've been so into
That's really cool.
guys playing guitars, and I just thought it was like the coolest thing ever. Like, I never played, but
Yeah.
like in high school, I didn't. I learned a little bit when I was older, but that was definitely one inspiration. And yeah, um, but it was cool. I mean, I think that it like the high school music journey was definitely something I definitely felt. And I think a lot of
Uh,
that's something that's also very similar. Like a lot of people like in our generation can relate.
yeah, definitely. I mean, this is definitely bringing back a lot of memories. Just reminiscing about high school. It feels like so long ago, but it also feels like it's just yesterday.
Yeah, I feel the
Yeah.
same way. I feel that too. Like it's significant years in
Yeah.
people's life.
So I feel like those years kind of did shape me. I mean, I can't, I definitely changed since high school, but there's definitely a part of me that I'm still like I was in high school in certain ways. So,
Well, I feel like I'm still the same person as I was when I was like five.
no, yeah.
Yeah, like
I
I
mean,
have,
that's good.
yeah, like I feel like I mean, I've definitely grown and changed, but like I remember certain things when I was five, and I don't feel like like when I was five, like my favorite color was blue. Like
Hmm.
I remember not really liking pink so much, and I feel like now I understand why the 5-year-old back then liked blue.
Ah,
So
gotcha.
yeah.
That makes sense. I don't remember exactly what my favorite color was, but it was probably just blue or red. It was probably, it's just,
Mm,
but I actually grow in high school when we're talking about going back to the day, I mostly wore like all black,
okay.
mostly. So
Did
that
that
was,
also make you part of that metal punk goth crew
yeah, that was the
more so
attire.
than you were a jock?
Yeah, yeah. I wasn't really a jock. I hung out with them sometimes because like I was also on the football team one year. So
Mm-hmm.
like I got along with them, but I was more like the token person on the outside.
Mm,
Just like with the jocks, just like that. I was also the token person with the punk kids.
mm-hmm.
Like they knew I had like a different ideology a little bit, but I still hung out with them.
Wow.
So
That's actually really cool that you're like a chameleon and you can just blend with whichever group of people that you're with. Like, I think it's awesome.
yeah, yeah. I think it's a good trait. I appreciate that.
Yeah,
That's
no, it is. It means you can, relate to people regardless of, how they label themselves.
for sure. Yeah, I mean, I try, I believe, or I like to think that I'm not as that judgmental. So that's
Mm,
also part of how I go about, when I meet people. I try not to be judgmental towards them. I try to understand people. Um,
yeah.
so yeah, that might carry over. So
Yeah. That's awesome. Well, this has been a really, really long interview that kind of went a little bit of a different way, but
yeah,
I'm totally fine with it. I think it was awesome.
that's awesome.
I'm gonna kind of wrap up and just ask you the last two questions, which is any practical advice that you have for people considering all the things we spoke
Practical.
about?
My first practical advice is don't take advice from me. That's probably the best advice I can give you.
That's awesome.
But but if I'm going to give you another piece of advice beyond that is, um, I think people, I think it's good to like keep an open mind about things and don't be so judgmental so fast when you're approaching situations. Um, I know, uh, in I feel like I have like a plethora of advice to be given to giving people. It's funny. I'm actually making like a YouTube channel, uh, giving advice to customer service reps on how for people to be better customer service reps, and that's one of the projects I'm working on because it's very easy to provide, um, customer service in general, but it's not very easy to provide great customer service. And I like lead teams. I like going and fix people's customer service issues that they have in
Mhm.
dealing with customers. Um, so that's one of the things I'm doing. I'm going a little bit off on a tangent, but
No, it's
I
okay.
think, I think the bottom line for advice is just like keep an open mind towards things. You don't know where your blessings are going to come from, and you don't know what kind of connections you're going to make. Like things happen, like great things happen in the world when at like the very least expected times and with the least expected connections. So when you're like interacting with the world, um, keep an open mind.
Beautiful.
That's it.
Thank you for that. Was that your final thought, or do you have anything else to add?
That's my final thought for right now. Um, Thank you for having me on your show. I
Aw,
appreciate
thank you. Thank you for
it.
agreeing to this and for your time and for sharing and for being so vulnerable. And
Yeah,
I really
thank,
do hope that this year is better and, all the best.
amen. You too, and
Thank you
hopefully
so
see
much.
many more shows. So,
I mean,
all
thank you.
right. Well,
Take care.
take it easy.
You too. Bye.